think you have something, Destiny, on your end that you need to mute. See if you can. Maybe it's better now. It's better now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mental Fitness episode 2 with my guest host slash badass slash real life Sarah Blessing hero, Destiny Wells. Thank you so much for being with us, Destiny. You guys, I'm going to stop the music early here. Destiny is amazing. I love her so much. I met Destiny when she ran for Secretary of State like 3 years ago, something like that. And I was just a leader on the Harrison County Democrat leadership team. And I also was running for county council. And been friends ever since. And now she recently ran for attorney general. And I have to say, you did a really good job. I'm really proud of you. And you went up a lot in how many people voted for you last time to the recent time. I'm really proud of that. Proud of you. And now you are running for Indiana State Democratic chair. And we're going to talk some about that. But the main point of this show, Mental Fitness, is to help you all who maybe can't afford to have a therapist, don't have time to see a therapist, or can't get one, you're on a waiting list. We are going to offer you the best tips we can think of to help you with certain things. And this is part 2 on anxiety. Destiny Wells has dealt with extreme anxiety and gotten help. And she's still one of our top Indiana State Democratic leaders. So she's going to tell you the challenges she faces, which is pretty brave and honest of you, Destiny. Thank you. And I'm so excited about this. So Destiny, thank you for coming on the show. Second episode, brave of you. Can you just tell us a little bit about you? And I'm just so excited to have you here. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate all that, Sarah. Likewise, fan. I met you, and I believe at a county function. You guys have an amazing headquarters. You know, everybody knows about it. It's right around the corner from. Well, it closed now, right? But it was right.
Yeah, it's just temporary. Yeah. We're so lucky.
Driving down the first time, and I was like, wow, So thanks for having me. Thanks for your involvement. Thanks for really just jumping into reorg. We both have ran for office now and kind of, understand a lot of the space and that we need to improve so that we are welcoming for people like us. I think something that motivates me a lot and how I approach this is that I want people to have a better experience than I did. It's just not acceptable. Some of the stuff that I've experienced within the party, and it's our culture could improve. That is something that takes a long time, maybe even multiple cycles to improve, but it has room for improvement. And so what I've brought with me to the party is my lived experience through other organizations, and that's primarily the military, especially being a woman who grew up in from the age of 19 enlisting to where I am today, 22 years later as a lieutenant colonel, and experiencing a variety of stressful situations that left marks, situations that made me better. And so I'm trying to bring that experience, even to the extent of having taught it now, because I'm at the point in my career where I teach our organizational leadership.
Awesome.
And bringing that with me in my personal toolkit and trying to really apply it this reorg. But I've had to get in a really vulnerable space more than I wanted to. I can't say that I really wanted to blast my personal information to everybody, but I felt like I was on the defense and I needed to start being on the offense, and that it was my story to tell, not my story to be framed by others. And so I kind of had to jump out and get a little vulnerable. But it felt like the right time, because, when you're running as a candidate, you have got to be smiley face, and you can't talk about criticisms of the party or your experience, because you don't want to be counterproductive to the collective mission of winning office. Right. So that's why reorg is so special for the party. It is a time to just kind of pause, reevaluate, and move forward. And so we are in that reevaluation phase right now. And I say it also too, I unfortunately am finding, and I know you've been an audience to this it's also time for people to settle scores. And so it really makes us dig into our mental health and talk about our resilience and how we continue to live in this space and give ourselves to the mission of getting people elected to office, improving everyday people's lives through the political machine, but at the same time surviving it ourselves. So I'm so glad that you asked me to be here to talk about this.
Girl, I am so proud of you and impressed for you, and just so thankful as a person that lives in Indiana, as has 3 children living here. We want to stay in this state. It's beautiful where we live in our rural town. And to see you fighting for us, to see you fighting for women and women's rights, to see you fighting for my children and their public school, to see that you are aware of the Indiana State Democratic challenges, the county challenges, the district challenges, and you have great plans for making the party more welcoming, and you tell everybody those plans. It just fills me with hope, makes me smile. You help me sleep at night because I'm in this with you. I am trying to change Indiana for the better so that my family can continue to live here, and to see you fighting so hard means a lot, and that's one reason we become friends, because I have seen some of the gossip. I have been a part of some of the false gossip when I am aware of it and I've been told it, and I went and reached out to you and we tried to clean it up as best as we could, and how much it hurt you personally, and it hurt me too because I love you as a friend, and I'm just so proud of you for how you handled that situation. Some people behind the scenes know about it and some don't. The specifics don't matter. The fact that people are going after you because you want to make positive change, and change is scary, especially for those in power. The way you handled the situation shows how mentally fit you are. And that is why I wanted you on this show. I wanted everybody to see you recognize your own faults. You recognize when you were misunderstood or when you were told wrong information and you acted in a way that maybe is not perfect, and you'll acknowledge them. I've heard you say stuff to me. Oh, maybe I could have handled that better. I've heard you say that multiple times. Yeah, me too. Same. I could handle lots of things better, because when you're doing stuff for the first time, you're not always doing the best. You got to learn. And seeing your willingness to grow and change and admit fault, that's a great leadership quality. And if all of our leaders in government positions in our country and in our state had the ability that you do, think about how much better our government would be right now, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a balance. Um, you know, I actually have a backstop, Sarah, on that. In being transparent and telling your vulnerabilities when you are in addition to that trying to lead. I think I heard like Michelle Obama say it on an interview once, like, you know, I'm not going to go tell you all my stuff because like I have to have your confidence in me too. And so then I've also served under leaders where I've made a personal rule for myself, and I have said this to other people while I've been running for party chair, is that there are people who are great leaders, but sometimes there ends up just being a lot of baggage, whether they intended it or not, but it starts to become such a distraction that no matter how well intended they are, it detracts from the group effort. And so like my personal philosophy is that being in a leadership position is not an entitlement. It is just you are carrying forward the effort at that time, but if it becomes to an extent where it's detracting and it's being counterproductive, you need to step aside. And I've had that conversation with myself, like before I jumped in for party chair, you know, I kind of like laid out, you know, everything. Because if you run for statewide for 2 years, a lot happens. You're talking a lot. And sometimes you're perceived the wrong way, or you upset somebody you have no idea. And so, or you get projected on a lot.
Yes. That happens to you more than others. I think that people project their own faults or their own fears onto you.
Well, and I think like that happens maybe too when you're very open and you be vulnerable, and that makes people uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
And like I've had to learn that like if somebody's yelling at me on the phone, uh, they are uncomfortable, right? Like, and so, or like when you're being gaslit, especially like let's think about being young with like a toxic boyfriend or something. They're doing that because they can't handle it, not because you necessarily are doing anything wrong, but they can't be honest, right? So like you're always self-evaluating and it can get to you. And so I think after running for office for a couple times and self-evaluating and being critical and always trying to figure out how I'm, presenting to people, but at the same time getting extremely frustrated in the organization, being felt like, you alluded to it before, but like let's just frame it like this because there a lot goes on, but primarily I think what you and I have experienced, you've watched me kind of experience is the fallout from running for attorney general. I started out in the organization party building, and I ended up, that's where I had a lot of dust ups, is trying to provide more on ramps into the party and being told no. And that was a lot because I jumped in from a very naive perspective, like a very naive place.
Well, I think a lot of Democrats are like that. We're just assuming everybody in leadership in the Democratic Party wants to grow and change and do new things so that we can save Indiana. And then you wind up somebody saying, no, you can't come in and do that. How
Yeah.
dare you try to change us, saying I'm not better, I'm not the best at my job. And they take it personally instead of from your perspective of like, women don't have healthcare rights in Indiana. Our public education's being destroyed. We need to get going fast. I think a lot of Indiana Democrats identify with what you're saying, and it might be the county stopping them. It might be whatever Democrat is in power that they're going to, they might have been stopped same way as you. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
and, like, let's talk, we'll frame it with the women, right? So, because it's an easy story to tell, we've all lived it now. Dobbs is percolating. We know that women need to organize. The Democratic Party is not doing like well. It's not returning results to the people. And it's like, let's coalition build. Let's build out the women's groups in the party. And I had a couple of older, very wise Democratic women be like, Destiny, that's not going to be worth it. And I'm like, no, we have to. And that is kind of where I learned that we are not necessarily doing things to progress the public ends for our constituents. We're instead doing things very internally to preserve notions of power, perceived power, and then sometimes actual power. And that has multiple incentives other than winning, sometimes financially. So it's just it's a beast. It is a beast, and you have to live in it to understand it. And I tell people like that, yes, I ran statewide twice and lost, but though that was all OJT, that was like drinking from the fire hose to want to run the party within having just stepped into it 4 years ago.
I was very upset when I became aware that you were primaried and the reason why and the pettiness there, and you won by a ton. I got to vote for you. That was wonderful when I was a delegate at the Indiana State Democratic Convention. That was the start of me seeing the unhealthiness in the Democratic State Party. And then I ran for state house too. And then now with Project Next, I see more of it. I see good things with the Democrats, and I see gross things, and I see gatekeeping. I know some good has come from the gatekeeping. I'm going to say one of the best things that came from the gatekeeping is mad voters. The people that run mad voters, several of them have spoken to me privately telling me they could not get involved in their county Democratic Party. They were turned away. They wanted a leadership position, and they were told negative things about themselves. Their feelings were hurt, and they walked away stunned and being like, well, I'm not giving up. We've got to fight in Indiana. So some of those women formed Mad Voters. And if you guys don't follow Mad Voters, they're on almost all the social media platforms. You can look up Mad Voters Indiana. They track the bills at the state house, and they shine a light on the good and shine a light
We're a
on the
bunch of
bad.
angry mamas.
Yeah, and me too. I'm one of them too. And they tell you exactly what to do to fight the bad and to encourage the good. And I ran for state house. One of the reasons I ran for state house was because of Mad Voters, because I spent an entire year reading all about the Indiana State House and what my representative was doing, and realizing I would do a much better job. Because before Mad Voters, I was like, I'm not qualified to run for State House. But reading what they actually do from them, I was like, oh, yeah, I can. And I told them that. I said, you guys are one of the big reasons I ran. So I want those Mad Voters people to now go back to their county parties and ask to be a part. And I want to know, are they welcomed or are they not? Because we have to shine a light on our problems, because we have to save our state. There is not another option. We cannot just roll over and let more of our rights be taken away from us. We live in a democracy.
Yeah. I want to, let me get back, let me put a pin in the AG thing, and then we can step back and
Sure.
walk through my
Go
personal
for it.
mental health journey and how it came to a head during the AG race. And so like, just like kind of top lines of what Sarah and I are talking about. Like, nobody's entitled to an office or to run for an office uncontested. Nobody.
Right. That's true.
Let's that is not what this is about. It was, unfortunately, what happens, I think, in the party over time is when you don't have a top statewide elected or a real like person that is the face of the party, you get a lot of different chiefs kind of popping up, a lot of different cooks in the kitchen. And so I had not intended on running again. And I was asked, and I very much admire the person who asked me, and really started to kind of wrap my mind around it. And I was going into the race wide-eyed. I knew I needed like $5-6 million. It was going to be a big, heavy lift. We also didn't know what was going to unfold with Biden and Harris. I was going to ride the roller coaster. I think you're an inherent gambler if you run as a Democrat in like Indiana. You are playing, you are trying to play your hand and see if you can catch that wrinkle in the cosmos sometimes. And so that's what this race was. And I came out full throttle. I was on media, all the things. The day I announced, somebody from the inside called me, and nobody had told me that there was a concerted effort to kind of just destroy my race. And that I needed to go on Destiny's public apology tour for all the candid conversations that I had over the last year and a half, 2 years. And let's just be frank, dust ups. So I'm no angel. No angel. It's kind of
wait, a shocker. You're not perfect. Me neither.
Yeah,
I'm not perfect either.
What makes this effective though, right? Like you take what you get, guys. And so I was told specifically, like, the effort is to make you lose it. This was a group of mostly women in the party.
So they wanted to mentally take you down. They wanted to hurt your pride and your ego
and teach
enough that this messed you up and
teach me a lesson.
Teach you a lesson. So pettiness there.
Well, yeah.
I would say jealousy too. I've said this on the show, you're very beautiful inside and out, and you're a very strong female leader, and that's hard in our culture. I am a strong female leader, and that's hard in my culture, in the rural area where I live. And I'm not going to change who I am to make them comfortable. And I like that about you, that you are you. Even when people want you to be a different type of woman, which really there is no perfect type of woman. No matter what we do, we will be criticized, because that's what people like to do in our culture. They like to criticize women for everything. Like, shouldn't you be at home watching your children 24/7 a day? They love that one, And it's like, I'd like to spend more time with my children, but guess what? Their education's being dismantled right now. So I'm working my butt off to help with that. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I just want to be clear before I move on. Because I will get off this and I will this call and I will self-reflect and ultimately I will be critical and think I could have said something better. But I want people to know that this is not like a woe is me. But this is the personal struggle that a lot of women live with every day, is walking that tight wire. We got that example in the military, was told once, and I was like, it's just so right, is that we are expected to kind of walk this tight wire, be nice, not be too mean, all the things, phrases that we use, there's a lot read into them. I was like, somebody was upset with me last night because they thought,
you say one wrong word and you've just offended people, and then you're supposed to go back and apologize. And I'm like, are we? maybe we could support them and let them keep trying to save Indiana because, again, my daughter doesn't have healthcare rights. So maybe we could get over the tiny little feelings getting hurt. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
just
and
my
then
opinion.
like you watch your male counterparts get up there and be like,
They say whatever they want, and they're praised as leaders. I've told my friends this behind the scene. If Destiny Wells was a 41-year-old white man doing the exact same things, he would be constantly praised for changing leadership and being so brave and willing, and we'd just be. But one of the reasons you are so brave and moral and willing to do this is because you are a woman, and we need to be praising that. Men, there's a lot of great men supporting us with women's rights, but it doesn't personally affect their own life. And so if we're a little bit more passionate about this issue, it's because literally it's our lives at stake. And our daughters and our granddaughters and all the people that we love that may want to have children or may not want to have children, their lives are on the line living in Indiana every single day. So I just encourage you all to remember that when your feelings are getting hurt. You get it, Destiny. You get this passion that women have that live here in Indiana. And it upsets me because I'm a friend of yours that you get constantly ridiculed for saying a word wrong or something, you know?
well, yeah. And so like, it's like, deal with that. But it went a step further last year. And then that's where I kind of want to dive into
Sure.
like my personal story. But I started to hear things like on TV interviews, because it's like, how are you going to choose to run your race? Are you going to do it in a way where you are providing a vision and leading the way, shining the light on like, let's go this direction? Or are you doing it from like I don't have a vision, so I only know how to attack, or I only know how to critique, right? Usually candidate does both. It's a combination of both, judging on the moment and the time, and and I definitely take the gloves off when it's a Republican, but like at the same time,
Love that.
I
Love
could
that about
probably
you.
have. I know people don't want to hear this, but I could have a beer with most Republicans because that's just their like they are in your face. This is what I'm going to do, and I wish that we would do more of that.
Same.
Because while I don't agree with your perspective, at least it's like we understand each other's role. So a lot of my conflict has not actually been the public stuff where Rob Kendall's calling me all the names on the radio, like whatever. That's, hey, they're talking about me.
Can you what things are you getting called on the radio? Because if I was getting called on the radio names, that would be hard for me.
Yeah, and well, let me just because I don't think people understand.
I don't think most of us get what you've gone through this last year.
Not necessarily. Well, I want to say that like I was hearing things last year, like she's not a leader. I just don't see a leader. She's and like these are things that I heavily identify with, especially with my personal, like my biggest accomplishments are largely in uniform, even though I'm a part-timer. It's that took a lot of my time through my adulthood and multiple tours. And it's kind of, that's been my personal arena where I've proven myself to myself, and so to see all of that kind of torn down after running the Secretary of State race and being told quite the opposite, it really messed with me. And I would talk to my veteran friends about it too. We have some electeds who are in the military too. And when they would listen to these interviews, they would be offended because they thought it also implicated their identity, and also generation, because there's a notion that the generations before us who had office have a lived experience that makes them more valuable than the rest of us because they once were in power. Whereas I think from like our foxhole, our perspective, it's like I was in high school, or like I haven't been here. I was just off the phone with the SEC member who's about our age, and he's like, I didn't know what it was to win. Like I didn't grow up in that environment. And then I'm like, yeah, and a lot of us, in addition to that, friend, grew up in an adulthood framed by war. And that's kind of like where I want to go with this, but framed by a whole different experience, constant conflict.
Constant. So you were faced with constant conflict a lot of it within your own party, which I was horrified when I found out what was going on, because I just blindly assumed the Democratic Party recognized what a wonderful candidate you are, what a great person. You're young, but not too young. You're the right age to be very knowledgeable, but have the energy and the passion, and the intelligence to do what's needed to pull our state out of extremism. I just assumed you were getting a lot of support. And being your friend, I found out, no, you were mentally struggling and you were having a lot of anxiety, and the support wasn't there like I just assumed it would be. And I did not have that. I ran for state house, which is way smaller. It's 1/100th of Indiana, where you're running the entire Indiana. I had some criticism, but mostly it was just nice support down here in this little area where I have a lot of friends. It I was just really sad and upset for you, because I care about you, and also because I have struggled with anxiety, so I know what it does to your body and your mind and your mental health. Um, how did you pull
They
yourself
called
out
me
of it?
Abortion on Demand Destiny Wells.
What did they call you? What?
Abortion on Demand Destiny Wells before we leave. That's on the radio
Oh,
here, but like that's just from the coming out of SB 1 and 22. And
well,
being
it's the right to life fake propaganda that the
yeah,
Republican people
they've
push
moved
out.
with that though. I am now Indiana Beto.
I think that's good. I like
I
Beto a
know, I'm
lot.
like, I like
He's
Beto.
and if people, most people probably don't know who he is, so I don't see how that one's gonna stick.
Yeah, and then they don't know who they're when they say, abortion on demand. They know exactly that's me. In fact, Sam Barloga, our comms director for the party, we were at IDA, and Sam's dad came and he's from the region, and he drove down through Indy, and he got to IDA at French Lick, and he goes, they really don't like Destiny on the radio in Indy. And I'm like, well, of course your dad listens to FM.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So the anxiety really peaked, and it was already peaking. It was already hard to deal with coming off the 22 race and losing to Diego Morales. Like, let's just be honest. You go out, you do everything in your community.
You all that don't know, Diego Morales is currently being investigated by the FBI, for a lot of money. Allegedly being, oh, okay.
I don't
So
want you to be sued, Sarah. Allegedly.
per
Per
being
Abdul.
looked at
So it's
by
always
the FBI.
yeah.
And there's a lot of shady things going on. If you want to look up Diego Morales, you can see the news that has been reported on and this is who Destiny went up against. And if you read the actions of him compared to the actions of you, Destiny, it's very upsetting, because one person seems to care about Indiana a lot better and one person seems to be in it for themselves. So it's frustrating.
Well, and I think it was a race that was emblematic of like how far gone we are on straight ticket voting. And that's not me just bolstering myself or my race. I mean, I watched like lifelong party members be like, if this race is lost, we are in even a worse place than we thought. And so, but the race also was, I just needed to go to the beginning, but before we leave, in case I don't mention it, there were a lot of claims of sexual assault by my opponent. I had multiple women come to the campaign and tell their stories to me.
Oh, so sad.
I'm still friends with some of them. The stories all were the same MO. They're all
So
like,
on Diego Morales's campaign, he was accused. There were multiple women that
he
came
had done
out.
these things in the past, and that the Republican electeds knew about it, and they had looked past it.
Right. Okay.
All like just like small statured women, same MO. Some of them actually very politically affluent, upset parents. One parent had been like a big donor. The governor had been at another one's wedding, and he never would acknowledge what was going on, even when she came out with it. I think like coming off the race and losing, this is all alleged, right? Because I don't want to see in trouble, but like I need people to understand how nasty and bad this is. This is the Republican part, is that when that race was lost, one of the alleged victims, who had personally, I believe her, alleged victims who had been helping in the campaign because she wanted to do everything she could to stop Diego Morales from getting elected. Personally, she told me she received a phone call from the governor's team after the race, checking in on her because that was a complicated situation. And the governor said that on the air that Diego would be a basically benefactor of like being a member of the party and he would get his vote. The governor was at this person's wedding.
It's so sad.
She's not a Republican anymore. She's more independent. But it's just watching how nasty and knowing like it is, and then knowing, and this is kind of where I'll back up and take you on my journey, that's been my whole life struggle, and watching not just so publicly facing losing like that race, but knowing what these people got away with and that it's everything I stand against. That really started after the race where I like had to end up kind of just pausing and concentrating on my mental health. But I don't really regret things often. I do question that AG's race because it really exacerbated. And I remember a moment after I got asked, and I remember telling him I was at Fort Leavenworth in uniform for a 3-week course that was already heavy. It was with all a lot of Army leadership. I've been in command too while I've been running, so I've been in charge of soldiers for a while now. I remember saying to myself, you are not healthy enough to do this.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But you have to own your decisions. I knew in that instance, you are not healthy enough to do this, but they don't know. So the AG race happens. Destiny, yes, it's really tested.
And we weren't talking during this time. You were literally too busy. But I could tell as your friend and just someone who knows you, I could tell you were struggling. And I was running my own race and being one of the leaders of Harrison County Democrats. So it's not like I had a ton of free time, but I could see it. And I just cared about you. And I was just worried about you. I also was more aware of getting attacks from multiple sides. And then when you're a woman leader, you get extra attacks. It's just natural in our culture. If you are a woman leader, you get criticism that the men don't get.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So here we are today. And, it's like, I tell people, actually, I hope he doesn't care about Adam Dickey. I'm like, Adam, I've had my battle scars from this race, from these last couple years. I find him to be a fantastic sounding board. And he was like, they're beauty marks.
I like that.
They're beauty marks.
That makes me proud that he's our District 9 chair.
Yeah, but it's it's that learned and lived experience that I think it does not make me less qualified. It makes me more qualified.
It makes you more, so
much.
It
makes me kind of want a mama bear over some of our, I had a discussion with one of my, one of the adversaries, right? Personality wise, I'm still trying to do our best and get through and have phone calls and talk about the future of the party. But one of the people I'm referencing, that created some of this, and it was a two-way street. I said, we need somebody who's going to take care of these people, who's going to take care of our most promising candidates.
Oh, you're so right.
And not throw them into the buzzsaw and then be done with them.
Yes, you're so right. And I just want to throw in, money-wise, we need to protect State House. I was a brand new State House candidate, knew nothing what to do. Indiana Rural Summit, Michelle Higgs, they helped me a lot. And then Tim Peck helped me and his team helped me. But the State House candidates, if they get a bad campaign manager and that campaign manager just takes most of their money, and I've been finding out some of the bad ones. And
I know. We've talked.
Letting them know which ones are bad, and then they go after me. And I'm like, I don't care. Go after me. I will do whatever I can to protect our brave and willing Democratic State House candidates. We're not just going to throw them into the wolves. We can't.
I described it to one of our up and coming women leaders the other day. I was like, it's like it's almost like a concerted effort to put out their light. Right.
It is.
All these people come to the
If you don't
space.
follow what they're doing, if you don't do their power, they will try to mentally take you down so you leave. And I'm gathering all of us. This is why we're talking, Destiny. No, we tell them no. We will work together. We will shine a light on a bad, shine the light on the good, and we will keep growing. And I'm so proud of you because look what you've gone through. I mean,
no, I'm a typical mom. Nothing there.
Been there. Go get it, girl. I'm going to go ahead and talk about some comments while Destiny gets a Kleenex. Carly's saying
well, I just don't want to be sniffling in your mic.
You can go get it. I got a lot of people that commented. Carly says we need change. I'm glad I'm seeing more women stand up for change. She also said she didn't know how Mad Voters started. It's amazing. Yeah, same. It's sad, but then also I'm so glad they didn't just stop fighting. Courtney says we need to remove leadership within the party who are holding us back regardless of feelings. In my opinion, need new, fresh, young people with drive, creativity, and challenging the status quo. I agree with you on there. I'm also willing to just say if you are one of these few people in Indiana Democrat leadership and you're willing to accept new people and learn and grow and change, stay on. That's fine. But if you're unwilling and you're openly going out and you're hurting the mental health of the leaders that are trying to change, you need to leave. And I think right now they need to be making some decisions because we're not stopping. We're growing. All of the Democrats in Indiana, all of the independents and Republicans scared of their rights being taken away. We're growing. We're going to keep shining a light on anybody that's stopping positive change. So they kind of need to make a decision in these next few weeks.
Well,
which side do they want to be on?
I mean, I used to say in my first campaign, because I started to feel the pushback, is that the future always wins. Right. And I mean, and I don't know how you center yourselves, but sometimes when I'm just like really needing to dig deep, I center myself on my kids. Right. And like that this is for them and just to, get through this. But I did have a very poignant moment with the same person I just mentioned in my discussion with. Saying like we need to protect.
Yes, that's so important.
Like yes. I already have my eyes on like so many people throughout the state of Indiana who I know are going to have like these amazing careers ahead of them. They're going to keep going, and like I want to mama bear them.
Me too.
Part of the reason I want to run for party chair. And then that's a national conversation that's happening too now about the donor class, about vendors taking advantage of like the satellite economy that the party has become. We are setting ourselves up for success for the next 4 years by, I was really proud of Mike Schmull, and he really went out on a limb. He did not have to do this. He cashed in like all his capital at the end of his chairmanship. And I want even the haters.
Mike Schmull is current chair of Indiana Democratic State Party.
I want even the haters to hear this because, it just comes with the territory. But he made sure that he led us through getting an ethics committee for the next 4 years, which we've not set up. So the next chair will be able to set the ethics chair.
That would be great. I hope we get a chair that's willing to do that.
And that should be part of the conversation, Sarah, right? Like I've said, like people should be asking us questions about this because I'm not sure that everybody running for chair intends on carrying this through.
Ooh, that's good to know because I'll be interviewing more people coming up. So
well, it's prickly. It's a prickly topic because it's basically the ethics chair will be a bit autonomous. Like Mike did make sure that the chair like is not the one doing it, that it's more of an
because they would be in control of it. Whether they're So that's
they're going to be They're going to be, if you have a sexual assault harassment complaint, they are going to be the person who receives it. There are, people are questioning the legality of this, why can the party do this? The thing is that this is a conversation that a lot of organizations have. Our U.S. government had it with the Department of Defense, right? Like I used to, when you would report, and this is really kind of going back to the beginning of my story, when you were to report something, it would be to your boss, it would be to like the commander, and they would not be objective because they felt a reflection of them. So, that's why I'm like, we need lawyers, here step by step, making sure that we're doing this, and because it will be a work in progress. It also is going to require a code of conduct be signed. And I mean, that's a
great idea.
This goes hand in hand.
Context, great idea.
Yeah.
It's like running it like a healthy company. Like you've worked, a lot of people have had multiple jobs, and who your boss is, who's in charge, the systems set in place of organizations help determine how healthy your working conditions are. And you're saying we need to protect state house candidates. As a state house candidate, I'm full on, yes, we need more protection. So you're willing to set up to change the systems, and Mike Schmoll is helping to start that. So good job, Mike. You're willing to do this so that the Indiana State Democratic Party is healthier and we're protecting our most vulnerable volunteers and people that come and work for us.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But let's just throw it out there. People that have skeletons in their closet and baggage do not want to see this done.
Well, I'm sure those are the people that are now gossiping about how bad Project Next is, because once they've caught on that we are not a Democrat media or Republican media, we are a people first. We put people first every time. They have said, don't follow what Project Next is doing. Follow the Indiana State Democratic Party. Well, that's your first clue that there's some skeletons there that Project Next is not afraid to shine a light on. Yeah.
And what did I say at the very beginning? I said, when your baggage becomes too much of a distraction, you need to step aside and let somebody else lead.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just not it's not about you. It's about the group. And so we're also, we're kind of behind. I think like over 30 states have a code of conduct.
Wow.
So if you want to run for office, or if you are sitting elected and you want those tools from the state party, like van access and others, you need to sign, you will have to sign the code of conduct. And if you don't, then those, to be determined, we had the initial conversations of like, well, we could withhold resources. And so we will be figuring that out over the next couple of years to make, like you said, a healthier space, safer on-ramps into the party, and not be putting out people's lights, those bright lights.
That's what's upsetting me the most. Like, I met with Jesse Brown on
Jesse's
Sunday.
My councilman.
Indy.
He's our one elected Democratic socialist.
And I didn't really know him before, and I just really like the guy. And how upsetting I feel to find out Democrats are trying to take his power. I'm really encouraged that they're going to change at the Indy City Council level, that more of those are going to be on Jesse's side. I really think that's going to happen. But if it's not, I told him, use our platform, call me up. I can go live on my phone if needed from whatever location and give you a brighter light, because we're just going to keep growing at Project Next and more people are going to watch. We have to shine a light on the shady, and it might not even be shady. It might just be fear-based. That's what it kind of seems like with the city council. They're very scared of the supermajority Republicans, and it's holding them back. And I'm like, no. We are losing our rights in Indiana. We need bravery right now. We need bravery, and to just try to encourage and support people like you and Jesse that are working super hard to do the right thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, that is a very intense discussion going on right there right now. And so I think Jesse, like his positions, he's decided to stay firm in, and he, it's a risk that you when you are trying to make change or be a change maker, and people don't necessarily agree with the change, that you can end up on the outside of the party. It's a bit of a tight wire too, right?
We don't want that. We want more of a spotlight on the few of you willing to be so moral and brave. That's who should be leading us, in my opinion. And I know it's scary for a lot of people. I am scary in my party, Destiny, and I am one of the main leaders, and I had to fight for it. And whenever the people that I love, that I work with, that are friends of mine, they'll let me know their fears, and then I will calm them down and reassure them. And they have let my light shine brighter in the county, other than snuff it out. And I'm so thankful for them. So it can be done. Not everybody is as brave as you.
Let's talk about
human,
some bright lights that are doing, I think, it well, that I admire personally. Victoria Garcia Wilburn in the House, in the Senate, my girlfriend Andrea Hunley, Rodney Pohl up in Northwest Indiana, there are just a lot of bright lights that I think are very promising. And
I
so,
like Shelley Yoder down here, our lone little state
yeah,
senator we got in the Bloomington
Kelly.
area.
And so, like, we need to, I mean, I challenge myself to keep perspective. And so sometimes I just live as a fangirl of these people so like ride the wave together. And I've told people about running for chair. Like, I don't mind relishing in others' success.
Yes, I love that about
It gets a
you.
little bit burdensome
It's
to
not
be.
all ego about just you. It's all of us doing this.
Yeah, and when you are truly an organizational team player, that's how you see things. That's how you continue to fill your cup, right? And I think that obviously this space attracts a lot of people who are narcissists, and people who are thin-skinned, and people who are, they're effective, right? Like, and I talk about that.
And they're brave. Those
Yeah,
people are brave in a different way than normal people.
yeah, like they're good for certain things, and they are oftentimes effective politicians.
And they come across as caring too. It's sneaky.
Yeah, it takes all types, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm openly working with some of these people because they're, even though they're in it for themselves, they are advocating for the right thing, and you do what you got to do to save the state.
yeah, you work with who I mean, in the Army, we say you don't get to choose your family. And I say that all the time about politics. I'm like, well, you don't get to choose your family.
But you're willing to work with them, and I like that about you. You're also
Yeah.
brave. I've seen you multiple times say, "I gotta go, I'm gonna call this person," and it's the main person causing you conflict, and you're like, "I'm just gonna get this addressed and try to fix it right now."
Yeah.
I try to do that. I love that about you. I want a state chair that is able to make those difficult conversations that most people would be too scared of because it's gonna cause conflict, but you wanna fix the conflict. You wanna work it out.
Right. And I've seen other people's leadership styles where they avoid it, and it doesn't help at the end of the
No.
day. Um,
Avoiding conflict is one of our big problems in the country and in the world. A lot of people don't wanna handle conflict because it's messy and it's hard, and I love people willing to try to get right in there as soon as they see the solution. They're like, "Well, we gotta face the conflict to get to the solution," and you are one of those people. Tim Peck is one of those people. By the way, he wanted to be on today to offer his support to you, and I said, "I appreciate it, Tim, but Dusty and I got this covered," and I just wanna shout out to him. He is a big supporter, and, I'm so thankful that yeah, he asked this morning if we wanted him to be on. I thought that was really nice of him.
we're inclusive people, but Tim, this is girl talk. So let's
That's
get
right.
down to that girl talk, Sarah.
Let's do it.
And just we can get more focused on anxiety.
Yes.
So, I've told you all, like, my professional identity was really shaped in uniform. So out of the gate, that was very hard. I had a little bit of top cover when I started because I knew certain people. I'm not from, my family wasn't military first, like the generations right before me. Historically, yes, but I'm really thankful that I had some senior people who knew me through my parents, and like that they looked out for me. And so I always kind of cringe at the fact that there are so many young women in uniform who just jump out there and they're still girls.
Yeah,
Usually.
same.
And that's why, though, over these years, and having been kind of the oftentimes only woman in the room, and definitely going to continue to be the only woman if in the room at all with how things are going in DoD, mentorship has become so important to me, and it's like I kind of look in hindsight at my life's path, and I often went alone, and to my detriment. And kind of like with the politics thing, right? Like, Mike gave me this awesome opportunity. I actually knew Schmoll through the national security.
Yeah, I am very impressed with Mike for giving you, not gatekeeping you, and not only gatekeeping, not but helping you. I'm really proud of Mike for doing
Like,
that.
he swung the door open for me.
Yeah, that's great.
And And I am very appreciative of that.
And it makes him look good because you're amazing. So yeah, it
Well,
was
he's
smart on
trying
him.
the door open for me, but we also were embarking on party politics. And like, as much as experiences he had in party politics over the years, I don't think it was a learning experience for everybody.
Sure, yeah.
So, anyway, no, but I lacked a mentor. And I think like that's been a lot of my dust ups too. Is like I don't have a parent
Yeah,
who
if you would have had somebody who was in leadership who knew some of the challenges you were going to face to prepare you for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike's like a peer, and then he had a really heavy lift, embarking upon his time doing this job. And I think kind of, it's a lot of people learn it, it's kind of learn at your own expense. But I have seen people navigate this space more successfully because they have a network of people who are coaching them along the way. And so I think in a lot of the stuff that like caused me issue was I was going for it, right? And things like who is she? Like, who does she think that? I remember coming home from Afghanistan and being a lawyer, and I wanted to get more involved in politics because I had experienced the Trump administration in 2016 in NATO to 17, and it was very formative for me. And coming back and then being like, well, you could be an LA, and I'm like, a legislative assistant, like people out of college, like I have skill set to offer. So it was very fortunate that
So I'm very thankful that you were able to bypass some gatekeeping because we do not have time for that in Indiana.
I largely credit my veteran card. And I tell other friends in uniform, I say, use that VIP pass.
My other veteran friends, they have great leadership skills. The military teaches you how to be a good leader, really helps you with that.
Well, and whether authentic or inauthentic, the party likes it, right? So the party liked the profile, but maybe not my opinions.
Right. If you did it exactly the way they said, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're your own person.
So mentorship is like so important. And when you don't have it and you're going alone, I think like over time, it can really exacerbate underlying issues. So I think a lot of people in this space are perfectionists. If you like look at them in the high school yearbook in the index, they have like a bazillion pages after their name. And so that attracts this type of personality. And also kind of in military leadership. So a bunch of go-getters, great, but need shaped by outside forces, and those are called mentors. So we don't do a good job in this space of that. We claim we do, but we really don't. We're trying in different spaces, who's moving forward, et cetera. But I think it will take some generational turnover for it to actually
Another good thing of the gatekeeping is there are all these other local nonprofits and organizations that have popped up in Indiana because so many people are upset, regardless of who they've been voting for in the past or not voting. A lot of us are upset about what's happened in Indiana. So I see a lot of them down here in Southern Indiana. We have like a women's caucus now. There's a new group called Liberal Leaning that I got invited to speak to. I think it's March 12th in New Albany, to try to help them lead. And a good Democratic chair for the state can help welcome these people to the party so that we can grow and organize, get more precinct chairs, get the best county chairs. If we come back around and say, we're so sorry that in the past we didn't welcome you, we are now, come. The mad voter people, come. Get in here, I think don't you want to do that? You've told me before.
Those are the conversations I'm having, right? Like I meet with people. Being the coalition and expansion deputy chairman, I got to go to all these groups and hear their stories of how they've been shut out over the years. So it's been nice to reapproach some of these people and be like, okay, it's our turn now.
And I heard you told me a story about about pastors being shut out of the Indiana State Democratic Party. They'd like to have a role in leadership, and you're like, yes. Bring them in.
Yeah, there are other states that have interfaith councils. It's very doable. So yes, that's a large part of my platform.
If you're doing a good job and if you don't have giant skeletons in the closet, you should not be scared to welcome more. I'm one of the main leaders at Harrison County Democrat. Democrats, and I would love more leaders to come in and help me because I am getting too busy with Project Next. So I would like more people. Um, you're saying that too. You're not going to be like, I have the power. You stay
Well,
out.
and not everybody needs to be in a public facing role, like so out on stage, right? Like when
Right.
people want to criticize me, I'm like, guys, I have had 2 Oppo books done by two of the nastiest
Oh my
Republicans, Diego's team, Rakita's team.
Oh, that sounds so stressful.
They've both done Oppo books on me. I've held a top secret security clearance for 20 years now. Like I have some parking tickets, but like you guys can try to frame my story against me, but you really don't. I mean, there's nothing there.
But you have to
It's
be
all God.
mentally fit enough, Destiny, to be able to say, I'm not perfect. You don't have anything bad. You're not a bad person. You're a real, regular person trying, like most of us. The fact that you're okay with somebody saying something, whether it real or not real, you can handle it is amazing. And not every human is there yet. They're not as mentally fit as you are.
I heard a young gentleman. I was at this Black Panel of Excellence in Fort Wayne last night. Sean Johnson organizes it. One of my girlfriends, Bree Andrews, was moderating, and it was a young Black entrepreneur. And he said that he had heard the advice that you have to know yourself before you can help others. And so I feel like that these last years, if I had more to know about myself, the party really stretched me. I tell people like, war didn't break me, the party broke me. One time this old Democrat looked at me, he's a friend, and he said, like, Destiny, this space is hell. Like, this space is not for the weary. And I think like when you give yourself that permission, then you're like, okay, I can get my dust ups and get back up. And like, it becomes a bit of, the successful ones are the ones who have resiliency and determination. You keep going. And I've seen that in my military career too. A lot of people who are in senior leadership now were just the people who they kept going. You outlast the others. And when I was having a conversation with the person I've referenced multiple times, who we've kind of gone head to head, and I'm ready just to move on, is that, when I first started, you told me I was the future of the party. When we were getting along, before you saw me as threatening, you said I was the future of the party. And ever since you said that, you have fought me every step of the way. Why is that? And so I think like we're very emblematic of these 2 generations that are trying to make it work, and having to have these really difficult conversations. And so anyway, mentorship's important. I watched myself go alone. I think a lot of people come into our space and they're going at it alone. We need to be able to scoop them up and help them through, because it is a lot of mental gymnastics, politics. Oh no, am I freezing, Sarah?
Oh no, I am too. Hang on. I think it's okay now. Are you okay now?
Yeah, I have full. You froze. You're freezing to me.
Now? Let me fix it for just a second, you guys.
You work on your connection, and I'll just talk, Sarah. And somebody type in the comments if it's actually me, but I think it's Sarah.
Okay. I know what I need to do. Is it back on?
Yeah, it's back on.
Sometimes my internet's been causing
broadband in rural Indiana. What? Oh, you're still going. It's Sarah. Okay, Nikki. Hey, Nikki. I got your message earlier.
That should be the last. That should be the last one. It had to do 2 switches. Sorry, you guys. Okay. Internet problems.
Oh, hey, Deanna. These are so many people in the comments who are, I know, or comment on my social media a lot. So it's great to see you.
Thanks, you guys.
We need to be like I said, mentor more, but to get down to the anxiety piece, because when you don't have those checks, the anxiety can really start to escalate. And so what I found myself with is that I had a whole, I call them my suitcases, not baggage necessarily,
I like that.
but like I have these suitcases that I carry around with me of my collection of experiences over the last 20 plus years in a testosterone ridden organization and in the military. And so those suitcases now include stuff that has been quite traumatic. It's been, like I said, going alone without a mentor, not having a woman to step in and be like, Destiny, you need to be more concerned about your safety. Destiny, you're being manipulated. I think like one of the most detrimental things that happened to me, and like I hadn't even told my mom this, and I think she read my post the other day and probably gleaned from it, but she knew something was wrong, and I never told her that I had been sexually assaulted by my mentor.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So it framed a lot of like it contributes to your anxiety over the years. And then another time my parents know about this, but it was more of a battery, and it was a class peer who's a like father of three at the time. And it was early in the, it was like 2007-ish. And we have made a lot of progress in the military for women to be able to come forward and say things.
Yes. But I'm so glad. Yeah.
This was a very traumatic experience where like I got extra duty for making myself vulnerable.
Oh.
And where one of the other women came forward and said like, hey, he did this to me too. And the big boss, the colonel, like said, and this is like when we're all like becoming officers, if you would have come forward earlier, this wouldn't happen to her. Like the exact
blaming the victims. What about the person that's doing it? I mean,
it's like, for me, when I read back into how women were dealt with, like I think of like things that happened in the 90s that were like tail hook, like very egregious things. But I think like my generation will have like its stories too. Like that.
Just a side note, every single woman that is friends with me that was in the military has told me they have had this same thing happen to them. So it's not like you're one of the few here.
Yeah, well, so it does a number on you, and then like you walk into spaces where you're the only woman and you're being perceived the wrong way, and I kind of, the longer you stay in, I feel like the better your peers are, because it kind of weeds out that a lot of who needs to go, and so I actually started to become much more comfortable in who I was as an officer, and then. I had a mobilization that was really rocky for others with a really bad toxic boss. And I ended up being like that. I've always been like this. I was young, but on the general staff. And I was the one who like wrote the report up in the background and like went to the inspector general and sat there and advocated for my peers. I like had men crying in my office, like, telling their experiences, just a very toxic mobilization where everybody got in trouble. But I was like in the background trying to be like,
That sounds hard.
I've always been like this.
By yourself? Were there people that you had close to you supporting you while it was going on? Because this sounds so hard.
Well, no. So like, and I had just been coming off let's just air it all out. I'd also been coming off a divorce, right? So like people don't know, like I have a great, like I did it really great the second time. And I think people who get to know me know that like I'm really big on my family and my husband and my two sons. But there was a starter marriage and it was an Army marriage, right? And it was toxic. And it was like somebody who had PTSD and all the things that a lot of people in our community do go through. And so anyway, it was your Destiny's in her early 30s, no mentor.
Sorry, so we just lost you. We lost you for like 30 seconds. Yeah, it was terrible. I'm so sorry, everybody, that my internet's down. Okay.
Where did I leave
I was so traumatized. I remembered for like 10 seconds
No,
where we
I'm
left
just
off,
saying,
and then I
like,
lost
I
it.
had like, oh, this is just a life experience of many in the military. Like, marriages don't survive what you put marriages through in the military. Nikki said she saw it. So we lost you, but not me.
Oh, good.
They just don't survive. Like, we were like abroad, you have no support system, like you can't get a job because you're in another country, and like a lot of times the spouses don't get jobs, so like you have to be really strong, and like that's just the lifestyle. I remember like a string of divorces. Like all my friends got divorced. We all got divorced, and I went back home and went back to Indiana, and that's the reason I'm here, right? It's like I boomeranged back, and I swore I would not stay.
I'm so glad you are here. Thank you
swear
for
I
being
wouldn't
here.
stay, and I kept trying to leave, and I boomerang back. I kept trying to leave. I boomerang back. It's like the millennial generation, or the boomerangs. And ultimately ended up falling like in love with my husband, and we're here, and we co-parent. We have like a beautiful blended family. And so anyway, I like stuck in Indiana politics because I'm like, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to make it better. Now I have a family here. And I think a lot of adults end up in those situations, and that's kind of their story. And so I ended up going to Afghanistan shortly after all that. And it's Donald Trump, and he takes over, and I'm just like really alarmed.
Same.
Okay, so, and serving with my NATO peers who like now today are super alarmed. And I come back, and so like that was really like, I think the biggest test for me, and can you survive a space? You're in combat. I really actually, back to being mentorless. I'm like flying around the country, dealing with NATO, dealing with men's personalities that, are not the same like culture as us. And I survive it, and I feel pretty good about it. And I come home, and then I decide to get married and start a family. And so I go like deployment, get married, have a baby, COVID, jump into politics. And you remember when I remembered when she said that one woman who I really adore, who said, you should run for attorney general. And I had that moment in my head where I said, I'm not healthy enough.
Right.
It was that, right? Like, so, but my anxiety got really, really torqued up after I had my baby. So you go from being in combat and handling it, and now you're in uniform and you're pregnant.
Wow.
You're not the battle hardened, got my vest on, like, hey boys, you are very vulnerable. And it's my first baby, because my older son, is share with his mother. And so it's my first baby, and I end up meeting a really bad egg who hates women. And I end up in this knockdown drag out with this man, my first day back, needing to like pump. I drove from Indy to Chicago. I ended up drying up, because I ended up in a military school. COVID happened. I ended up, it's just like I was getting through it. But we don't have a lot of rails in place for when our women are pregnant in uniform.
Oh, yeah. We're getting better. It's hard enough without that. It's so hard.
But you have your fluctuating hormones, right? You're coming off of like, I still to this day can't hear a helicopter without being in Afghanistan. And it's not traumatic. Luckily, it's not traumatic for me.
That's good. But yeah, that makes sense.
Back to a traumatic space. It doesn't for me. But it is very visceral. And so like all this is going on. And then I end up just having my whole identity questioned, because like now I'm not like the battle hardened chick anymore. I am the post pregnancy woman that they are like saying, it was like this, it was because of this. Guys, I need a door unlocked so I can pump. Well, we can't do that. You just have to go in the restroom. And I was like, okay, you go eat in the restroom, and I couldn't in the restroom. There was not a plug-in. And the whole time they could unlock the door of another office, but they just didn't. And
it's just control over you. It's so easy for them to just show their control over you.
Well, and they're like that with each other. I was new too. I was brand new. I was brand new instructor.
It's just the way the world works unfortunately. It makes me angry, but I get it. And I've had it happen too. Yeah.
And you feel like you're being gaslit, right?
Yeah.
You feel like you're being gaslit because they can't be sincere. And you're like, and things you're saying are getting twisted. And it became this one weekend, 3 months post pregnancy, that really just this one weekend, and one 20-minute conversation where there was like practically blood on the walls with this narcissist who ended up like we argued, and then another woman came onto the team after I left, and she actually took him they ended up in like, she was trying to put a restraining order on him. So he's just a really bad egg. But the thing is when you have people around you, and this happens in politics a lot, that are observing this and they're not saying anything. And this happens in politics way too much because everybody wants to keep their powder dry.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't say anything. It hurts even more. And it makes it more confusing. So I came out of that situation, and that was the first time I thought like, I need mental health counseling. And then it was like, but I have a security clearance. And,
so like even in therapy, there's a lot of things you couldn't say. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you have to like report, and then they, so then it was like, and then my insurance, because you said on the beginning of the call, and I really appreciated you saying that, like some of you are on a waiting list. So like, yeah, then it was an issue with my insurance, and I put it off, and I didn't do it. And I would look at my husband and I'd be like, I know I'm reacting out of proportion to this situation, but that's just your alarm, like your alarm system goes on inside.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of us that are paying attention to what's going on in politics are like that. And that's why I'm trying to start the show to help people. Well, a lot of us are like that. I have to bring myself down. Tim Peck had to listen to me talk and helped me with it. And I help him with it because both of us are in it and we get stressed out. Yeah.
Well, and then like, but your self-preservation system, it's just like, you've been wired like that. It's just your wiring based upon your lived experience. And
when you get so much stress,
Yeah.
You can get anxiety, depression, other things. You're going to go someplace negative if you don't take it in a healthy way, because your human brain can only handle so much.
Yeah. So skip forward, get involved in the party, run the race. And
you've been asked to. You've been
throw myself in there, because like I run for secretary, but I like to go back because I tell people like it took me 18 months. So February of 23, after the AG or after the secretary race, I kind of broke down and told my husband like I'm struggling so much. And I think also when you are in office, when you are running for office and it's like October and you start to feel it and like, like kind of like what it would feel like to have it. And then the music stops, everybody walks off. It's really hard to deal with the emptiness and like the questioning. And so it was just years of trauma that just kind of came to a head. And I ended up having to game the VA system because the wait list was so long. So I ended up, and when I say I gamed it, I had already started to internally just like make peace with the military sexual trauma stuff, but I was not going to be able to get in unless like I gamed it and said, this is stress from military sexual trauma. Because then I get put in a different
I think you're allowed to. It happened to
Different
you.
treatment
It
plan.
doesn't seem like you gamed the system to me. It seems like you got yourself the help you needed.
Well, you get into a different treatment plan, and then you immediately get care based upon who's got what
I'm
caseload.
glad they do that now. That's nice. That's good.
Well,
So
who's got what caseload at the VA, and so then you do
that's
that for like
interesting because
3 or 4 months.
I'm not in the military, so I didn't know that.
It's hard, yeah. No, it's the VA is, and it's really sad that we're just tearing it apart. But
We
uh,
need to be helping these people that have done the
yeah,
most to protect
not
our country.
fire the staff, but you know, you get through that, and you're like, it's funny because I end up talking to this VA therapist, and we start in my military story, but very quick, like after 3 or 4 months, I'm like, I'm talking about politics. I'm talking about the party. I'm talking about being mission oriented. I'm talking about my service and trying to like fit in. I'm talking about like I probably would never choose these people as my friends. I see like that I'm there. We have to get through this to get where I'm going. Like the mission continues beyond uniform, and like it's just, and so it ends up. I have to be my best advocate in the VA, and they've been great, but it does not go fast. They're very regimented. And so I end up not getting diagnosed with severe anxiety and clinical depression until the spring of the AG race.
Wow.
So, we talked a lot more than about that. And maybe I should have just started out with that. But that is the story. That is my story, is that, we're women. You turn 35, you're premenopausal, even if you sometimes don't know it. Your body's changing. You have a baby, you put a baby on top of that. You put perception of how you are as a woman on top of that. And then you want to bring all that lived experience as a light into a space of politics. And it can be quite disastrous. I mean, it's very, I've seen a lot of great people, both men and women, walk away over the years.
Me too.
And so it's like, that is a lot of my personal story, but being in candidate mode, there was no way in hell I was ever going to share it. And so, Sarah, the chair race, I said, like, reorg is also about settling scores. And so like the noise just really ramped up around me. I think like they just thought like, why is she doing this again? And I thought, well, because like I've learned so much, nobody knows the state central committee that's running for chair better than I do. I've gotten to know all these people over the years. And so it's just like, well, we got to figure out some way to take her out. And so like, yeah, I had not handled my anxiety well on the trail sometimes. But it would be just really isolated stuff that there would be like a grain of truth to. And then all of a sudden it would be like something ridiculous where
I think a lot of women that try to lead can identify, maybe men
where I'm
too,
like,
but
that
yeah,
didn't even
where
happen.
we're scrutinized to the finest point, and that's a lot of gaslighting when the bully paints you as the bully. That happens a lot. I see it with you. I see it with a lot of good leaders that happening too. I just want to say, I will always be your friend, and I will always be there for you. You're one of those people that you are fighting for my children and for all of us in Indiana. You get access to call me at 3 in the morning if you need my help. I'm just throwing that out there. Second, I am so proud of you for sharing your bravery right now and some of the hard things that you have had. I'm sorry they happened to you, and I'm really glad you got through them and became stronger. And third, what can we do? Those of you listening that care about Destiny, that want her as a leader of the Indiana State Democratic Party, what can just regular people do right now? We only have a couple weeks left before 33 people get to vote. What can they do to support you? And I also want to say, because we didn't get time to say this, I want to thank you for your social media. You're very vulnerable and open and honest and clear and effective at telling what you've done, where you want to go with the party. And so guys, follow her everywhere on social media that she's on. I would say Facebook being her biggest one. But what can we do, Destiny, to support you and to help?
No, I appreciate it. Keep showing up to spaces like this. people like you, Sarah, are involved in your county party, have access to your district chair, just express your opinion. Or things like, if you hear, I think the strongest candidates have a vision that they're putting forward in a plan. Talk about what you like about that plan, and kind of set expectations for Democrats around you that, this is where I expect us to go as a group. And I don't know, just show up and authentically be yourself. Speak up.
So important. Be you. You
like,
are wonderful. Those of you watching, you are wonderful. You don't have to come on a live show and talk for an hour to help democracy. You have whatever talents you have, you can use them to help us save Indiana. So that's such a good point, Destiny.
And if you have anxiety and you battle with anxiety, you have to have, I do an awful job at this because it's coupled with depression. So I like to kind of just go in my hole, and like take a nap or something, like process it in my, but you have to do the self-care piece and I tell my soldiers all the time, you have to put your oxygen mask on before everybody else. And if you don't do that, you're not going to be effective at what you're doing.
I've told you this before because you're a trusted friend, and I've talked about it on air, but a year ago, we're coming up on the year mark of my own suicidal thoughts that I never thought I'd have. I thought I was too strong, that this would never happen to me. And it did. And I immediately put it on social media and said, I need help, because I knew I had to take care of my children and I couldn't get therapy the next day. And I met new people. They took me to lunch. I met a retired therapist that took me to lunch. And they gave me all the tips they could. And then if they didn't have tips, they just loved me. And if you are struggling, turn to people that love you. And maybe you need to open that wider tent to get more people, because that's what I had to do. And then I got help pretty quickly. There was a few days when I couldn't take care of my children and I had to find people to take care of them. But because I opened myself up vulnerably and said, I had this happen to me and it was terrible, people just came in. And if people were judgmental, I didn't care. Don't talk to me. If that's the thing you're scared of, because I admitted I had suicidal thoughts, then great. I don't want to be your friend. So being vulnerable and sharing is such a strength. And I wish more leaders in the Indiana Democratic Party realize that. There's no shame in saying I struggle sometimes. It's actually what makes you stronger. And it's actually what makes you so freaking amazing, Destiny Wells.
Well, and I just want to say, especially at a time when our party is having such an issue with authenticity, people, they know that when you're being fake, but when you're vulnerable, you are authentic, and that builds trust. And we have a whole brand issue in building trust with the public, and I think that means first and foremost building trust with each other. So I appreciate you allowing me this space for us just to kind of chat like girlfriends.
I'm just so proud of you. My friend heart is just so proud of you. And I just love you very much. And I will continue to see you as a hero for my children. That's why I'm doing this for all of the children that go attend public schools that we're ripping away their education, and we're doing everything we can so that rich people can get richer. And we have to shine a light quicker. We have to clean up the party. We have to protect our women in this state. We have to. So you all that have the power, if you're listening to this, either step up to the plate and be welcoming to people like Destiny and people like Jesse Brown, and be welcoming to these people, or move out of the way. Please. We literally, for our own lives, for our children, we have to do better. I mean, I think they forget. They take everything personally and they put ego in the way. And it's not about you. It's about my daughter and my children and everybody else's children. And it's about our rights, and they're being stripped from us in Indiana. So I'm so proud of you, Destiny. I love you so much. I hope that those watching get to know Destiny a little bit more, because it's sort of hard when she's running for state office to be vulnerable when she's being attacked. And
I don't bite, but I will bite people for you.
She's also, I love that mama bear. We got to protect those state house candidates. We got to protect them. I love that. I'm with you on that one. I will be helping you. I will be helping you. And anybody that advertises bad Democrats in Indiana, you're on my alarm bell for what are you doing? Because I'm seeing that right now, and I'm gonna have to do a show about it because I can't keep quiet about it. I'm seeing it's like just because you got a D by your name doesn't mean you're good. If you're hurting women or you're doing certain things, maybe we need to stop advocating for them.
Let's get out front and help change the climate and the culture of the organization, and just keep on going and learn from those before us. Continue to feed off of their intuitive understanding based upon being in the organization forever. It takes all of us, but the future does always win. So let's not
we're on the right side of history. Come join us. Let's do this. And then before we leave, quick. This Saturday, most Indiana State Party are reorganizing. We are in Harrison County. This Saturday, we're electing a new Dem chair. The next weekend, district chairs, and then the next weekend, state, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
So if you want to help find out who your county chair is going to be after Saturday, get a hold of them. Let them know who you want. Tell them to tell whoever's the district chair. Ours probably is not going to change. I think ours is going to be Adam Dickey. I'm going to be talking to Adam Dickey and letting him know who I want. And then if you know any of the 33 people that get to vote. But we have power. There are more of us than them, and they need to be listening to us. So get out there on your social media and share this episode if you can. Text a friend. If anybody's suffering anxiety and this conversation might help them, send it to them. Follow us on YouTube. We are one word, Project Next Movement. Please subscribe to us on there. We're doing great on Facebook. Did you know our Thursday episode last week, Destiny? We're over 3,000. I think we're at like 3,200 views for that, which is our Project Next record so far. And we're just going to keep growing. Let's do it. Let's do this.
You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Love you, girl. Hope to talk to you soon. And everybody, bye. Thank you so much for all. Thank you for watching. We love you guys. Let's do this.